Firstly, I'd like to thank PPSA, my sponsor, Nuffield Australia, and my family. If it wasn't for them, none of this would have been possible. Bit of background on me. I grew up on a family sheep farm on Kangaroo Island. There's 4,500 people, 4,500 square kilometres and 600,000 sheep. So I'm a bit biased when it comes to sheep. I went away to boarding school for my last 3 years, and there in Adelaide I came across a careers advisor who told me there was no future in agriculture and I needed to look somewhere else. So based on this advice, I went away and studied international business at university to keep my options open. Luckily she was wrong and I was stubborn, so I went and got a job with Thomas Foods International, working in their marketing and then livestock departments. After 3 years, even though I loved it and learnt a lot, I realised I wanted to be back on farm, so I moved back to the family farm. I'm now a joint owner and manager of the family farm. I also hold industry roles in Sheep Producers Australia as a board member, a Livestock SA, and at Kangaroo Island, which is a local representative group. And through this I've been involved in a lot of industry activities. So, what is the issue? We've got an ageing demographic when it comes to agriculture, and the proportion of young farmers is getting smaller, so we need to find a way to get more young people into agriculture. There's a huge potential for the industry, we just need the right people there to drive it forward. So how did I approach it? I split it into 3 different things. I looked at attracting, developing and retaining young people in the sheep industry. I wanted to do it from a grassroots approach rather than an industry or government level. I wanted to see what can and is working for young people in the industry. So attracting. In the top left there, if you just do it a Google search, that's how the world sees the Australian sheep industry at the moment. Put that with the live export, and who would want to work in our industry when that's what you see in the media? We all know this isn't the truth. With the economic situation, we're close to record wool, lamb and even mutton prices. And there's a lot to be positive about in the industry. So how do we change this perception of our industry? Well, it's about positivity and it's about mindset, and from the ground up as farmers we need to be more positive about what we do, more proud about what we do, and really putting out that image. A really good example of that was in Israel, in the desert, where they get really no rain, but they wanted to have a goat dairy, so they started desalinating groundwater through using solar power, and then growing barley sprouts in a fridge and feeding that to their goats, and then creating milk and then cheese. And using this story, they'd gone out and they'd have multiple distribution places around Israel and really telling a really great story. And going on with that, telling the story is how we can change this mindset. Japan is a brilliant example of how they tell a good story. The Wagyu that everyone knows about is unbelievable. Up there you can see a full story from the farmer all the way through to a supermarket where the meat's being presented. They were getting $850 a kilo for their Wagyu beef there. So not only are they making farming look really good, they're actually making a lot of money from it as well. So when we tell our story, what do we tell? We tell lifestyle. That's why I came back to the farm. That's where a lot of people you talk to come back. I think it's an unbeatable lifestyle. The girl in the middle there, she actually works full time in Osaka in an office cubicle, and she was going up on weekends to work in the tea harvest because she found it therapeutical, really enjoyed the work and loved getting outdoors, so she was trying to find ways that she could turn that into a full-time job. Online is a great way to tell this story. Through social media, it's cheap and it can reach a large audience and is really personal. Paulina in Iceland here, she's got a huge following, and all she does is tell her day-to-day story of what she does on farm in the sheep industry. So, a great example of making agriculture cool and telling a great story was actually in Trinidad and Tobago. Alpha there in the pink shirt, he started a grassroots organisation with really little funding. We were going around to schools, talking to kids and asking them what they wanted to do in the future, and most of them said fireman, police officer, doctor, all the typical ones, but none of them said farmer. But as soon as he brought in his character that he created, Agriman, came in the room, the kids just got excited, and he came running in like this. And from then on, all the kids, they would just focus. I've never seen anything like it. They would just focus so much on what they were telling them, teaching them how to plant plants, telling them where their food came from, all the opportunities in agriculture, and they were fighting over questions so that they could win a comic book. So it's a really cool example of how to get kids at a young age, is what's been mentioned by a couple of people already, really excited about the industry. Another great story that we can tell is through the environment. As farmers, we actually look after more land than any other group of people. This is a great opportunity to not only feed the world, but improve the environment at the same time. And young people are looking for jobs that not only pay, but actually are fulfilling. And this is a great opportunity to tell people, the amazing things that we can do, both economically and for the environment. It was also interesting, everywhere you went, most sheep farmers just love working with animals, and a lot of people go and study veterinary and stuff like that. Temple Grandin, she was telling me that she had a lot of vet students come through. They wanted to work with animals, so they all went to do veterinary. None of them actually knew that there's so many opportunities in agriculture. So now that we've attracted people, how do we develop them? So we need to provide a wide range of career paths, study paths to get people in. We need to lose the mindset that it's only for not very study inclined students. As Daniel touched on earlier, there's so many different ways we can do this, and there's so many different parts of the industry that we need people. We need the best and the brightest. When I was asked to talk at a high school recently, they said, there's a few students here that are not very study inclined and that, so can you please talk to them? And I thought, well, we actually want everyone in the class. We want the best and the brightest, and these ones actually have a bright future as well. So we need to lose that mindset and really try and attract all types of people. So after that, we need to find out how we can retain people. We need to lose the mindset that you need to own a sheep farm to be on the land. Obviously there's financial barriers there, but there's a lot of ways around that, and I saw around the world so many great examples of how people got into sheep farming with no background in the industry. At the top left there, Sean Morgan. He grew up on a family farm that was really struggling just to look after his parents, so he saw no future in that, even though he loved it. Went away and got a electrician certificate and started doing that, but went to New Zealand on a gap year, I guess, and saw that there's a whole different way of running sheep, and went back and found a forward-thinking type farmer and got a job managing their sheep operation, and he was very excited and looking at ways to turn that, maybe eventually back into his family farm, but providing that management opportunity, and with the industry going the way it is with bigger farms and that, there's going to be more and more management opportunities. In the top right there, Matthew, he grew up in Manchester, hated the city, hated school, but loved going away every summer on family holidays to Wales. He used to sneak up the road and actually help an old dairy farmer. I think the dairy farmer liked the company, and he really enjoyed doing it. So as soon as he could get away from Manchester, he went over to Wales, got a job just down the road with a big dairy farmer, and then started leasing little small blocks of land, buying dairy calves, finishing them off, and then having them ready for milk and selling them then. And every year he'd double his herd. He got to a point where he had a big enough herd where he could milk his own cattle. A big farmer just down the road saw the potential, so he said, I'd provide the land and the capital if you provide the cows and the labour, and now they share the profit. So it's a great story of how someone came from the industry, from way outside the industry, and is now managing a large cattle herd. Tulare, down the bottom left there, she, no agricultural background, went and studied ag science, wanted to work with sheep, just loved sheep, loved dogs, didn't really know where to go. The National Trust in the UK have a scholarship where they allow her to manage a farm for a year. And on this farm, she pretty much gets the reins of it, but has some really good mentoring at the farm next door from another National Trust property. That's Irwin. He was also a Nuffield Scholar, and she's going to go away from that experience with full knowledge of how to manage a property. Down the bottom right there is Jean in southern France. They have quotas on how much milk they can produce, so he wanted to expand the business but couldn't really expand his operation on farm. and his other passion other than sheep was brewing beer. So now he's doing beer and sheep, and loving it both, and actually supplementing his income and growing the business that way. There's a lot of different ways that you can grow your business, even if there's restraints around. Top left there is Robert Irwin. He's in California. They have huge fire problems in California. They don't manage the pastures very well for fires. He saw a huge opportunity here. Started 5 years ago with pretty much nothing, and he's now getting paid by a lot of people to run sheep on their property. So yeah, he's actually getting paid to lease land. So he's making money before he even starts doing the sheep work, and helping control fire risk. In the top right there, we've got Rollo, and he's in the Cotswolds. Again, no farming background, really wanted to get into sheep. Banks wouldn't lend him any money, didn't really know where to go, but being in the Cotswolds, he had lots of rich neighbours, so managed to convince one of them to loan him some money. 3 years later, he's got 600 ewes. Was able to pay him back, but the rich neighbour told him he needed to expand his flock, so he's just growing rapidly. Was very lucky, but found a way to get finance without the traditional methods. Succession, that's an obviously traditional one. This can be successful and is on many cases. The key points that I found when looking at succession was formal communication and making sure you talked a lot and did it formally, no emotion and all that, and sharing responsibility. So Stuart, he's in his young 20s, and he actually, this is an extreme example, I'm not saying everyone should do this, but in his young 20s he now has 51% of the business and has full control of it. He's got his parents, he's working with them, and they're great, but the enthusiasm and everything that he had, having control of the business and the way they were moving it forward, and yeah, it was really impressive. I'm not saying everyone should do that, but it's a great example of what happens when someone gets their hands on something. Mentoring is another great way to help build businesses. This is the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. They have a similar program to Nuffield, where they choose a few scholars every year, but rather than travelling around the world, they match them up with a mentor. This might be a farmer down the road, or it might be a banker in New York, and they find the mentor that matches their project specifically to help them be successful in that project. Whatever they want to do with their business, that will help them get to that next level. So it was a really good program. So a room full of leaders in agriculture here. My challenge to you is, what are you going to do? Are you going to go out there, help improve the industry, the image of the industry, and then help young people find ways to move forward and have a long future in the industry? Thank you.